Today's video is about the pros and cons of the stock seat versus the Saddlemen Road Sofa seat. And you might be surprised at the differences. The stock seat versus the road sofa, there's a few things I've noticed since I've put the seat on and that I thought I'd share because they could be important purchasing decisions. And one of the things I've noticed is in relation to the flared windscreen. Now, this is the flared windscreen from Indian, so it's a taller screen than the stock screen that comes with the Indian Chieftain. I found the stock Chieftain screen was insufficient for my height. I'm 6'1". When I'm sitting on a bike, I still get a lot of turbulence and things off the stock screen, even when it's right up with the electrically operated screen. I was hoping that the flared screen would solve that problem because I've spoken to people who've got this screen and have been very happy with it, people my height. Now, it turns out I had the bike in for its first service yesterday, and when I take the bike in for its services, I like to just take it back to pretty much stock. So if I've got bags on it or stuff in the panniers or I've put a custom seat on or whatever, I'll take them off, put it back to stock so that when Jeremy, he's the lead tech at Indian Motorcycle in Ballarat, when he's working on the bike, he's not faffing around trying to take all the bits off to get to what he needs to get to. So I like to do that. So I put the stock seat back on yesterday and noticed that it solved some of the issues that the Saddlemen seat has created with the flared windscreen. Number one being that and I didn't realise how much it was affecting me, the seat, the Saddlemen's Road Sofa seat sits you up higher and it sits you further back. So consequently, even with the larger flared screen in the tallest position, I'm still getting turbulence and buffeting off the top of the screen. And I'm also getting some from down below, but most of it's just on the top of the helmet coming from the top of the screen. And I've been trying, different helmets and putting attachments on my helmet. I'll make a video on that. Just doing testing to get rid of the turbulence. It's sort of like, when I say it's turbulence, I've got two things, wind noise and then turbulence. Turbulence is where it's just like buffeting pressure pulses on the helmet. And that's the most annoying part. I don't like that. So I've actually gone back to my old Arai, which has got a fin on the back, which does help alleviate some of that pressure. But yeah, I didn't realise how much the extra height of the Saddlemen sitting me up and how much that little bit further back is making a difference. After riding a bike with the stock seat yesterday, I noticed that I was sitting where I was just looking through the top of the screen or just a little bit below when it's in its tallest position. With the Saddlemen seat, I'm well clear of the top of the screen when it's in its tallest position. Like I feel the screen's about probably about here. With the stock seat, I felt I was probably like about there. And I think it's the padding on the stock seat's a lot softer, so you sink into it more. Whereas the Saddlemen seat, you don't sink into it at all, so it sort of keeps you up. Another thing I noticed between the stock seat and the Saddlemen seat is the riding position. The riding position with the stock seat has you closer to the handlebars. So with the stock seat, I feel that I'm probably, more closer to the handlebars and my feet are further up on the footboards. But it does put my hands in a more comfortable position because I'm a little bit closer and I'm also sitting down lower, so the handlebars are higher in relation, if that makes sense. So I do find I prefer the position on the bike with the stock seat, and then it also sits me closer to the screen, which makes it more effective, and also sits me lower on the bike, which makes it more effective. And then also, because you are more onto the handlebars and closer, I do feel I have more control of the bike at lower speeds and in manoeuvring at lower speeds. So that's a plus. Now, when I'm sitting back on the Saddlemen, I don't feel like it's a hard bike to control or anything like that, but I do notice there is a difference. I do notice there is an improvement when I sit forward. In terms of comfort, the Saddlemen's definitely a more comfortable seat with this backrest than the stock seat. Plus, it's got the heated section. Plus, I know my wife will be a lot more comfortable on the back of this seat than a stock seat. So, in terms of comfort, the Saddlemen gets to win for sure. But in terms of position, I do like the position better, actually, just in that I'm just a little bit closer and a little bit lower down with the stock seat. With the Saddlemen seat, when I'm sitting back like this, and it's very comfortable, but I do find there's now a case for having perhaps the extended reach handlebars, reduced reach handlebars, which brings them closer to my body. So if I was to install the reduced reach handlebars, then my hands would probably be about here, which is more comfortable than sort of reaching that little bit to get to the handlebars. So, with the Saddlemen Road Sofa, I think there is a case for the reduced reach handlebars. So if you're shorter than me, I'm 6'1". If you're shorter than me, if you're 5'9", I reckon there's going to be a case for that. Something to consider. So the flared windscreen is an improvement, and I'm glad I've got it. It does make the ride quieter, and I think, especially with the stock seat, it works really well. Obviously, that's what it was designed for. Introducing the road sofa does change the dynamics of the bike, so that's something to be mindful of. In terms of comfort, the win goes to the road sofa for sure. In terms of backrest, I prefer the backrest on the road sofa. In terms of passenger comfort, in terms of features, having the heated seats, definitely the road sofa is for the win. It's got its quirks. I've made an installation video on installing the seat, so you can check that out. I highly advise that you watch that video if you are considering buying a road sofa. I'll link that at the end of this video or in the description below. They're not quirks that would put me off buying the seat. The seat, definitely, its pros outweigh its cons for sure. So where to from here? Well, with the Saddlemen Road Sofa, this screen's probably be a bit short for me. Clockworks have a few different screens, but I believe this is pretty much equal to their taller screen. So I'm not going to get any sort of help there. I thought this little flare here would do more than it's doing, because I thought if it's at just below my nose and it's got the flare on it, should kick the air over my helmet, but it actually doesn't. I'm still feeling it on top of my helmet, so that's interesting. It's definitely helping, but not to the degree I imagined it would. Should you buy the flared screen? Well, yeah, I think if you're below 6 foot, and with the road sofa, I think you're going to be absolutely fine. If you're over 6 foot, then I wouldn't rush out to grab this screen or a Clockworks one of the same size. I'd definitely see what else is there on the market, and perhaps even look for something a little bit taller, a couple of inches taller. I think this is about 12.75, 13 inches. And I think the Clockworks one is either 13 or 14 inches as their taller screen. So I think they're pretty similar. And I do suspect that maybe Clockworks may even make this screen for Indian. Another thing to keep in mind with the flared screen is distortion. There is a fair bit of distortion when you're looking through the screen, especially when I'm looking down at the road in front of me as I'm pulling up somewhere. It is distracting. If you're thinking about buying a screen to ride it and look through it, if you're, say, 5'5", 5'6", I probably wouldn't advise it due to the distortion. I think you might find it a bit annoying. I'd be searching for something which has more of a clearer view. But in my case, where I'm looking, clear over the top of it, it's totally fine. And if I'm, at low speeds, needing to see in front of the bike down at the ground, then I just lower the screen. So it's fine for me. So this is my old Arrow helmet. You notice it's got this little ducktail on the back here, and that just helps to break the air so it doesn't get sucked onto the helmet and wrap around, which is certainly helped me out in terms of turbulence. With my new Arrow helmet, it's all smooth and clean, and what happens is the air hits it and then sort of gets sucked onto it, and then you get the turbulence and then starts to shake my head around. So I definitely get less with this helmet, with this ducktail attachment on it, which caused me then to start experimenting with putting something on the top of the helmet to help break the airflow. I tried, like a set of prongs, if you like, spikes to try and break the airflow, and I tried just a flat piece. Then I tried some little ribs on the helmet, And the last one I tried was like a little aerofoil, and yeah, none of them really made the difference or made enough of a difference where I thought, yeah, that's worth keeping on the helmet. So there you have it. There's pros and cons to everything. Nothing's perfect. You're never going to buy something and uh, it's a miracle cure. It just seems that every time you make a change for the better in one area, you compromise in another. So in terms of comfort, yep, I'll be definitely keeping this seat on, especially for longer rides. This is going to be a lot more comfortable than the stock seat. But now I need to sort out the screen. I've actually been thinking about the air that's coming through under here, because there is air, definitely air coming through and up, being sucked in by the negative air pressure behind this fairing. And I can tell that because if I keep my knees against the tank, I have less buffeting than if I kick my knees out a little bit, then the air just whooshes up and I get even more buffeting in my helmet. So I am getting some from down here. And I thought, I've been looking at, there are fork leg deflectors, which will deflect the air off, but I'm thinking of maybe something a little different, maybe a flap or something here, just to direct any of the air that's coming through here down, rather than let it come through to me. So I'm going to make up some little flaps and just try that and see how that goes first. And I'm going to leave the fork leg deflectors as a last resort. I am getting turbulence off the top of the helmet, off the top of the screen, onto the top of my helmet. So I've got to do something about that. The screen with this seat is just not tall enough. With the stock seat, it's fine. So I think it's good enough. So yeah, I've got some work to do, let's say. But anyway, I could ramble on for hours. I'm not going to hold you up any longer. If you did like what you saw and wouldn't mind giving the video a like and the channel a subscribe and maybe leave a comment, that'd be appreciated as well. Thanks again, everyone. And until next time, bye for now. Just heard the call of a bird that I haven't heard in quite a while. That's a black cockatoo. And there's a couple up in the tree there. It's got a very unusual call. It's very prehistoric sounding to me. I think they look like they might be yellow-tailed black cockatoos, so we'll try and get a shot of them. They're up in that pine tree there. I just saw them fly out. I can hear them. There they go. 3 of them. I think there's a few more in the tree there. Just they're a big black cockatoo. I think they're a little bit larger than the sulphur-crested, which is a pretty large cockatoo, or a large parrot. And yeah, they just have this really prehistoric call when they fly. They're really cool. And I haven't seen them for quite a while. But obviously, as soon as you get north of Ballarat, you can start to see these birds.